What if I told you that the secret to living past 100 isn't hidden in some expensive supplement or revolutionary medical procedure, but sitting right there in your kitchen, overlooked by millions of people every single day? What if the oldest practicing doctor in Japan, a man who has witnessed nearly a century of medical breakthroughs and has treated thousands of patients, discovered something so simple yet so powerful that it could add decades to your life? And what if this same discovery is being ignored by the very people who need it most, while they chase after complicated diet plans, miracle cures, and trendy superfoods that promise everything but deliver nothing? You see, while the Western world becomes increasingly obsessed with the latest health fads, there's a 98-year-old Japanese doctor named Dr. Shigeaki Hinohara who has been practicing medicine for over 7 decades, and his secret isn't what you'd expect. This remarkable man, who continued working well into his 90s, who climbed stairs 2 steps at a time until he was 92, and who maintained the energy and mental clarity of someone half his age, has been trying to tell the world something crucial. But here's the problem. We've been too busy looking in all the wrong places to listen. The truth is, most of us are making 3 devastating mistakes when it comes to longevity, and these mistakes are literally stealing years from our lives. The first mistake is believing that genetics determine everything about how long we'll live. The second is thinking that expensive treatments and supplements are the answer to aging. And the third, perhaps the most dangerous of all, is ignoring the one daily habit that has been proven time and time again to be the foundation of not just longevity, but vibrant, disease-free longevity. Dr. Hinohara spent his entire career studying what separates those who live to 100 from those who don't, and what he discovered will shock you. It wasn't the wealthy patients with access to the best medical care who lived the longest. It wasn't those who took dozens of supplements or followed the most restrictive diets. It wasn't even those with the best genetics. Instead, it was something far simpler, something that costs almost nothing, something that anyone can do starting today, and something that most people completely ignore. But before I reveal what this is, you need to understand why everything you've been told about longevity is wrong. The multi-billion-dollar anti-aging industry wants you to believe that the answer lies in their products, their programs, their revolutionary discoveries. They want you to think that longevity is complicated, expensive, and requires constant intervention. But Dr. Hinohara's research, backed by decades of clinical observation and supported by modern scientific studies, tells a completely different story. Here's what really happens in your body as you age, and why most people are accelerating their own aging process without even realizing it. Every single day, your cells are under attack from something called oxidative stress. Think of it like rust forming on metal, except it's happening inside your body. This process damages your DNA, weakens your immune system, and accelerates the aging of every organ in your body. Most people unknowingly make this process worse through their daily habits, creating a cascade of inflammation that leads to heart disease, cancer, diabetes, and cognitive decline. Now here's where it gets really interesting, and this is the part that changed Dr. Hinohara's entire approach to medicine. He noticed that his longest living patients all had one thing in common, something so simple that he almost dismissed it at first. These centenarians weren't necessarily eating exotic superfoods or following complicated dietary protocols. Instead, they were doing something that their ancestors had been doing for thousands of years. Something that modern society has largely abandoned in favor of processed convenience foods and quick fixes. The secret that Dr. Hinohara discovered is this. His longest living patients consumed fermented foods every single day. Not just any fermented foods, but specifically traditional Japanese fermented foods like miso, natto, and fermented vegetables. But here's what makes this discovery even more remarkable. When he looked deeper into the science, he realized it wasn't just about the fermented foods themselves, but about what they were doing inside the body at a cellular level. You see, these fermented foods contain something that modern medicine is only now beginning to understand. billions of beneficial bacteria called probiotics, along with compounds called postbiotics that are created during the fermentation process. These microscopic organisms don't just improve digestion, they fundamentally transform your entire body from the inside out. They strengthen your immune system, reduce inflammation, improve brain function, regulate hormones, and even influence which genes are turned on or off in your cells. But here's what's truly extraordinary. Dr. Hinohara discovered that people who consumed fermented foods daily had biological ages that were 10 to 15 years younger than their chronological ages. Their blood pressure was lower, their cholesterol levels were healthier, their cognitive function was sharper, and their risk of developing age-related diseases was dramatically reduced. It was as if they had found a way to slow down time itself at the cellular level. Now, before you rush out to buy expensive probiotic supplements, you need to understand something crucial that the supplement industry doesn't want you to know. Most probiotic supplements are virtually useless. The bacteria in these pills are often dead by the time you consume them, and even if they're alive, they can't survive the acidic environment of your stomach. Moreover, they don't contain the complex ecosystem of beneficial compounds that naturally occur in fermented foods. This is where most people make their biggest mistake. They think they can shortcut the process with pills and powders. But Dr. Hinohara's research showed that only whole, traditional fermented foods provide the complete spectrum of benefits needed for longevity. The fermentation process creates not just probiotics, but also prebiotics, postbiotics, enzymes, vitamins, and bioactive compounds that work together in ways that science is still trying to understand. Let me paint you a picture of what happens inside your body when you start consuming fermented foods daily, because this is where the magic really happens. Within just a few days, the beneficial bacteria begin to colonize your gut, crowding out harmful bacteria and reducing inflammation throughout your entire body. Within weeks, your immune system becomes more robust, your energy levels increase, and your sleep improves. Within months, you'll notice improvements in your skin, your mental clarity, and your overall sense of well-being. But the real transformation happens at the genetic level, and this is what fascinated Dr. Hinohara most of all. These beneficial bacteria actually communicate with your genes, turning on protective mechanisms and turning off inflammatory pathways. They influence the production of neurotransmitters in your brain, affect hormone levels throughout your body, and even impact how your cells respond to stress. It's like having an internal pharmacy that's constantly working to optimize your health and slow down the aging process. Consider the story of one of Dr. Hinohara's patients, a woman named Kimiko, who came to see him when she was 75 years old. She was taking multiple medications for high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and diabetes. She was overweight, constantly tired, and convinced that her best years were behind her. Dr. Hinohara suggested one simple change. Add a small serving of miso soup and fermented vegetables to her daily routine. Nothing else changed in her diet initially, just this one addition. Within 6 months, Kimiko's blood pressure had normalized, her cholesterol levels improved significantly, and her blood sugar became more stable. She lost weight without trying, had more energy than she'd had in years, and was able to reduce several of her medications under medical supervision. When she turned 100, she was still living independently, cooking her own meals, and enjoying life with the vitality of someone decades younger. Her secret? 25 years of daily fermented foods. But here's what's truly heartbreaking. While the Japanese have been reaping the benefits of fermented foods for thousands of years, the Western world has been moving in the opposite direction. We've sterilized our food supply, eliminated naturally occurring bacteria from our diets, and replaced traditional fermented foods with processed alternatives that not only lack these beneficial microorganisms, but actually kill the ones already living in our gut. The consequences of this shift are staggering. Rates of autoimmune diseases, allergies, depression, anxiety, and age-related cognitive decline have skyrocketed in countries that have abandoned traditional fermented foods. Meanwhile, regions like Japan, where fermented foods remain a daily staple, continue to have some of the longest lived, healthiest populations on Earth. Now, you might be wondering which fermented foods are most beneficial, and this is where Dr. Hinohara's specific recommendations become crucial. He found that diversity was key. The most successful centenarians didn't just eat one type of fermented food, they consumed a variety throughout the week. Miso provided one set of beneficial bacteria, natto another, fermented vegetables yet another. This diversity created a rich, complex ecosystem in the gut that was far more powerful than any single fermented food could provide alone. For those new to fermented foods, Dr. Hinohara recommended starting slowly. Begin with just 1 tablespoon of miso soup daily, or a small serving of sauerkraut or kimchi with your meals. As your gut adapts and your tolerance improves, gradually increase the variety and quantity. The key is consistency rather than quantity. A small amount every day is far more beneficial than large amounts consumed sporadically. But there's another crucial element that Dr. Hinohara discovered, something that amplifies the benefits of fermented foods exponentially. He noticed that his longest living patients didn't just eat fermented foods, they also consumed what he called prebiotic partners, foods that feed the beneficial bacteria and help them thrive. These include fiber-rich vegetables, seaweeds, and traditional Japanese ingredients like gobo root and mountain vegetables. The synergy between fermented foods and these prebiotic partners creates what scientists now call a symbiotic effect, a situation where the beneficial bacteria don't just survive in your gut, they flourish and multiply, creating an even more powerful impact on your health and longevity. It's like providing not just the seeds for a garden, but also the perfect soil for them to grow in. What's particularly fascinating is how this approach addresses the root cause of aging rather than just treating symptoms. While conventional medicine focuses on managing diseases after they occur, Dr. Hinohara's fermented food protocol prevents many age-related diseases from developing in the first place. It's the ultimate form of preventive medicine, and it costs just pennies per day. The scientific community is finally catching up to what Dr. Hinohara observed decades ago. Recent studies have shown that people with diverse, healthy gut microbiomes live longer, have lower rates of chronic disease, and maintain cognitive function well into their later years. Research has also revealed that many of the compounds produced by beneficial bacteria have direct anti-aging effects, influencing everything from telomere length to cellular regeneration. But here's what troubles me most. Despite all this evidence, most people continue to ignore this simple, powerful tool for longevity. They'll spend thousands of dollars on anti-aging treatments, expensive supplements, and complicated diet programs, while overlooking the one thing that could add decades to their lives. They'll obsess over the latest superfood trends while ignoring a practice that has been proven effective for thousands of years. The tragedy is that every day you delay starting this simple practice is another day of accelerated aging, another day of missed opportunity to strengthen your immune system, another day of allowing harmful bacteria to dominate your gut microbiome. The beneficial effects of fermented foods are cumulative. They build on themselves over time, creating an increasingly powerful foundation for health and longevity. But this also means that the sooner you start, the greater the benefits you'll experience. Dr. Hinohara often told his patients that the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, but the second best time is today. The same principle applies to fermented foods. While you can't go back and give your younger self the benefits of decades of fermented food consumption, you can start today and begin experiencing improvements within days, with the benefits continuing to compound for years to come. But there's something else Dr. Hinohara discovered that will completely change how you think about aging, and it's something that most doctors never tell their patients because it challenges everything the medical establishment believes about growing older. He found that the people who lived the longest didn't just consume fermented foods randomly. They had specific timing strategies that maximize the benefits at the cellular level. The most successful centenarians consumed their fermented foods first thing in the morning on an empty stomach, allowing the beneficial bacteria to establish themselves before other foods could interfere with the process. This timing isn't accidental. It's based on our body's natural circadian rhythms and the way our digestive system functions throughout the day. When you consume fermented foods first thing in the morning, you're essentially seeding your gut with beneficial bacteria when your stomach acid is at its lowest and your intestinal environment is most receptive. These bacteria then have the entire day to establish themselves, communicate with your immune system, and begin producing the beneficial compounds that slow aging at the cellular level. Dr. Hinohara also discovered something that shocked even him. The fermented foods don't just impact your gut health, they directly influence your brain aging through what scientists now call the gut-brain axis. The bacteria from fermented foods produce neurotransmitters like serotonin, dopamine, and GABA directly in your intestines. These same neurotransmitters then travel to your brain, improving mood, reducing anxiety, and protecting against age-related cognitive decline. His centenarian patients had remarkably sharp minds well into their 100 seconds, and he attributed this directly to their daily fermented food consumption. Consider another one of his patients, a 102-year-old man named Takeshi, who came to Dr. Hinohara initially complaining of memory problems and depression at age 78. Traditional medicine wanted to prescribe antidepressants and cognitive enhancers, but Dr. Hinohara suggested something different. A morning routine that included a specific combination of miso soup with wakame seaweed, followed by a small portion of natto with fermented vegetables. Within 3 months, Takeshi's family noticed dramatic improvements in his mood and mental clarity. By age 85, he had learned to use a computer. At 95, he was still driving and managing his own finances. At 102, he was teaching traditional calligraphy to younger students, his mind as sharp as someone half his age. What makes this even more remarkable is that modern neuroscience has now confirmed what Dr. Hinohara observed clinically. The bacteria in fermented foods actually help repair and protect the blood-brain barrier, reduce neuroinflammation, and stimulate the production of brain-derived neurotrophic factor, a protein that promotes the growth of new brain cells and protects existing ones from damage. This isn't just about preventing dementia. It's about maintaining and even enhancing cognitive function as you age. But here's where most people make a critical error that sabotages all their efforts. They try to combine fermented foods with foods that actually kill the beneficial bacteria they're trying to introduce. Dr. Hinohara noticed that patients who consumed fermented foods alongside highly processed foods, artificial sweeteners, or excessive amounts of sugar saw little to no benefit. These substances act like poison to beneficial bacteria, creating an internal war in your gut that the harmful bacteria usually win. This is why the standard American diet is so devastating to longevity. It's not just that it lacks fermented foods. It actively destroys any beneficial bacteria that do manage to survive in your system. Every time you consume a diet soda, a processed snack, or a meal loaded with preservatives, you're essentially carpet bombing the very microorganisms that could add decades to your life. It's like trying to plant a garden while simultaneously pouring pesticide on the soil. The solution isn't complicated, but it does require a shift in mindset. Dr. Hinohara taught his patients to think of their daily food choices as either feeding the bacteria that promote longevity or feeding the bacteria that accelerate aging. Every meal becomes an opportunity to choose life over death, vitality over decline, longevity over premature aging. When you frame your food choices this way, the decision becomes obvious. So here's my challenge to you. Stop looking for complicated solutions to aging. Stop believing that longevity requires expensive interventions or radical lifestyle changes. Start with something simple, something that has been proven effective by thousands of years of human experience, and is now backed by cutting-edge scientific research. Add just one serving of fermented foods to your daily routine, first thing in the morning on an empty stomach. Start with miso soup, sauerkraut, kimchi, or kefir. Make it a non-negotiable part of your day, just like brushing your teeth or taking a shower. But don't stop there. Begin to see every food choice as a decision about how you want to age. Choose foods that nourish the bacteria that will keep you young, vital, and mentally sharp well into your second century. Eliminate the foods that poison these beneficial microorganisms and accelerate your aging process. Your gut bacteria are literally voting on how long you'll live with every meal. Make sure they're voting for longevity. Watch how this one simple change begins to transform your energy, your health, and your outlook on aging. Notice how your digestion improves, how your immune system strengthens, how your mental clarity sharpens. Pay attention to how this ancient wisdom, preserved by cultures like Japan for millennia, begins to work its magic in your modern life. Your future self, the one who celebrates their 100th birthday with the vitality and joy of someone decades younger, is counting on the decision you make today. Don't let them down.